Hey everyone, Brad here today from the OFAH Heritage Center. Now this month is Halloween, and in honor of Halloween, this month, in our Fascinating Facts series, we're going to be dealing with something a little bit spooky. What are we talking about? We're talking about Ontario's invading species. So stick around as we learn all about these invading species that are not supposed to be here in Ontario. Invading species are plants, animals, and microorganisms that are not native to an area and have a negative effect on native ecosystems and the economy. Different species also affect ecosystems and the economy in different ways. Some invasive plant species can create huge monocultures where only that species grows, and it prevents any other plants from growing in that area. Also reduces available habitat for native species to grow. Other invasive species, like some fish, are incredible feeders and can remove huge swaths of vegetation or even prey on our native fish species. There are over 500 different invasive species here in Ontario, and these are some of the scariest. Our first invasive species we're going to look at this month is the marbled crayfish. Now I'm sure we're all aware of crayfish. They're freshwater crustaceans in the same family as lobsters. And they're an important food source for many aquatic species, including turtles, fish, and birds. But they also serve an important role as scavengers, as they clean up the bottoms of lakes and rivers. However, there is one species that is like something straight out of a science fiction movie. The marbled crayfish was created in a lab using another species from Florida, and it actually clones itself to reproduce. In fact, the entire species are all composed of females, and they're all genetically identical. These cloning crayfish can completely take over aquatic ecosystems if they're released into the wild. Unfortunately, because of their limitless population potential, they are very popular in the aquarium trade. They can quickly become a nuisance and be difficult to keep as their numbers explode into unmanageable populations. Marbled crayfish pose a significant threat to Ontario's freshwater ecosystems, and therefore are prohibited under the Invasive Species Act of 2015. The next invasive species we're going to talk about today is a plant, and it's called Phragmites. Shorelines are a vital ecosystem that provide habitat for a huge number of species. As a transition from water to land, it is a vital source of protection for young fish, reptiles, and birds as they mature and move into deeper water or onto land. Cattails, sedges, rushes, and water lilies all make up these shoreline ecosystems, but invasive Phragmites can quickly overrun them. These large grass species are considered one of the worst invasive species in the world. They're often referred to as living deserts because although they are living plants, they offer very little regarding habitat, food, or shelter. Phragmites are very common along highways and shorelines and can stretch for miles. In some cases, it is all one single plant connected by the roots. Phragmites can also produce 2,000 seeds per stem, which can greatly contribute to its extremely swift ability to spread. The next invasive species we're going to discuss is called water soldier. Aquatic plants are important to freshwater ecosystems as they are food sources for many species and provide vital habitat for fish. Water soldier is a species of invasive aquatic plant that grows quickly and create huge mats of floating vegetation that can prevent any wildlife from using that area of a water body. Furthermore, these floating mats can be so thick that boats and canoes can't even move through them. Those mats can also alter the water chemistry, making it toxic for fish. And if that's not bad enough, the leaves of water soldier are serrated like a steak knife, making removing this plant very difficult. It doesn't take much to spread water soldier to a new area. As boats and other watercraft move through areas that have water soldier, they can chop up the plant, and each of these fragments can establish new populations. So, if you're boating through an area known to have water soldier, try to avoid the patches where the plant is growing to help prevent its spread. Moving on to land, our next invasive species is a mammal, and one that we might associate with farms most often. What are we talking about? Wild pigs. There are in fact no pigs that are native to Ontario, and the term wild pig can refer to Eurasian wild boar, escaped domestic pigs, or hybrids of the two. Pigs that are released into the wild can reproduce very quickly, and over just a couple of generations, they can change from a cute pink bald pig that you might find at a farm into scary, coarse-haired and tusked monsters. Imagine if a small puppy escaped into the wild, only for it to be found later as a wolf. This is what happens with wild pigs. What makes them even scarier is that they're incredibly smart. They can avoid capture or detection, making their removal very challenging. Special cages must be designed to trap them, and if their entire group isn't captured at once, they can separate and spread to create an even larger population. Wild pigs can destroy ecosystems by damaging plant communities, they compete with native wildlife for food and habitat, and they can spread diseases like hepatitis and African swine fever. Keeping with the theme of Halloween, this next species we're going to talk about are vampires. What are we talking about here? We're talking about sea lampreys. Sea lampreys are native to the Atlantic Ocean, but were introduced to the Great Lakes when the Welland Canal was created, which gave sea lampreys safe passage into the Great Lakes from Niagara Falls. In their native range, sea lamprey live part of their lives in saltwater, but have adapted to living entirely in fresh water. Sea lamprey had a devastating impact on the Great Lakes fish population, reducing fish stock by up to 90% across the Great Lakes. They latch on to fish, where they will penetrate the fish's skin and feed on its blood, just like a vampire. As few as 1 in 7 fish who are preyed upon by lamprey will survive, and a single lamprey can kill up to 40 pounds of fish in its lifespan. Thankfully, management and development of lampricide, a chemical used to combat invasive lamprey, have greatly reduced their numbers, allowing native fish to bounce back. If you ever catch a sea lamprey, do not put it back into Ontario's waterways. Staying in Ontario's waterways, we're going to discuss 4 invasive species which are related to a native inhabitant of Ontario. We're speaking about Asian carp. Asian carp refer to 4 different species of invasive carp: grass carp, bighead carp, silver carp, and black carp. These fish have been brought over to many places in the United States to use as biological control in aquaculture ponds, which are farms that raise seafood like shellfish or other fish. These carp are voracious eaters, and grass carp in particular, which prey on vegetation and plankton, can eat 40% of their body weight in a day. Since grass carp can grow to be 90 pounds in weight, that is a massive amount of habitat and food that can no longer go to native fish. Another of these species, the silver carp, make up more than half of the fish by weight in some parts of the Mississippi River. They'll even jump out of the water if the water surface is disturbed, which can cause serious injury to boaters traveling nearby, as they can weigh dozens of pounds. Asian carps reproduce and grow incredibly quickly, and if they establish themselves in Ontario's waters, they can outcompete our native fish species for space and resources. In fact, a single grass carp can produce up to 1 million eggs in a single spawn. Unfortunately, even though Asian carp are prohibited in Ontario, they can still be imported into several US states for use in aquaculture. If they escape into the Great Lakes, they can make their way over to Canada, where new populations can be established quickly. And that is a scary idea. That's it for this spooky edition of Fascinating Facts. Thanks so much for joining. Be sure to like this video and comment below. Don't forget to check out the resources section on our webpage. There, you'll find free printable resource material, like mini lessons and activity pages to follow up the virtual lesson. And please subscribe to stay connected as we learn together outside the classroom.